Welcome back. Since we've been talking about vision planning, we want to remind everyone of the core concepts of person centered thinking that have been developed by the learning community for person centered practices. The core concept is all about balancing what is important to the person with what is important for the person. If we do not know what is important to and for a person, it can be difficult to engage in conversations, support goals, complete vision planning tasks. So let's get a quick refresher on what these concepts mean. Let's dive into the important to side. So, what is important to a person includes those things in life that make them happy, comforted, fulfilled, satisfied, and content. And so it includes things like people and relationships. This could be people that they want to hang out with, people they don't want to hang out with, their culture and identity, and like how we relate to the world. It could include backgrounds and family, their ethnicity, etc. Purpose and meaning. What are those things that give us meaning, such as by being a grandparent or having pets or the work that we do? Status and control, so jobs and education, where we live, we're hardwired to want status and control of our lives. Things to do and places to go, so maybe you volunteer, you sing in a choir, etc. Some routines and rituals, and these are the things that we do that help organize our lives, that we enjoy doing. It helps us have positive control over our lives. Maybe it's a rhythm or a pace of life. Some people that like to do things really fast, others that like to take their time and go slow. Things to have. This could be collecting things, being able to go out and buy things. And it's incredibly important that we begin to recognize what is important to the people we're supporting. But it goes beyond that. It also includes what matters most to the person. And this is their own definition of a quality of life. What is important to the person includes what the person says. And when we say that, we mean with their words and or how they communicate and with their behavior. Because when the words and the behavior are in conflict, we really need to pay attention to the behavior, that action, and ask why. So have branching conversations so that we can learn about people. Leading off with a yes no question might seem important to help get the conversation rolling, but then ask why or a follow up question like, tell me more about that. Now that we have talked about the important to side, we need to have the balance and explore what is the important for. These are issues of health and safety, being valued, and being a contributing member of society. Employment can help to satisfy all aspects of the important for side for people. It can help with managing and maintaining physical, mental, emotional health, and can help us be safer when we have the money to stay safe. We can also be valued for working in the roles that we have within our employer, and then we're seen as a contributing member of society. Now, because services are often funded by Medicaid, which is a health insurance, it makes sense that oftentimes service is driven by keeping people healthy and safe. So it's not uncommon for direct support professionals to have a list of required duties that all relate to the health and safety of the people you're supporting. We want to be mindful, however, that all people can work regardless of any limitation or level of support they may need. With the right supports, anyone can work. If someone has a seizure protocol at work, their employers and their co-workers can help support them as natural supports on the job. We might also have support staff that come in to support them while they're working, and this is commonly known as a job coach or an employment support professional. Health and safety are important for everyone, but there really should be balance. We want to make sure that we have also what's important to people in their life paired with what's important for, which are those issues of health and safety. So let's explore a little bit more on the next slide as we talk about Tony's story. Now, Tony is an example of a person who found meaningful employment later in life after so many people throughout their life did not believe they could work due to their disabilities. Tony is an older adult who is known for being funny, adaptable, spontaneous, and a good trainer. Tony uses a power wheelchair due to their cerebral palsy and relies on full staff support to complete most of their activities of daily living. Tony does not use words to communicate, but their staff have learned how to best communicate with them. Staff learned that Tony liked animals and wanted to work. And as Tony's staff bonded, they recognized that not only did Tony have a love for animals, but also an interest in working. The staff put these two ideas together, and Tony ended up getting a position at a local vet hospital. And their role was to care for animals coming out of anesthesia. Tony had great support to be successful on the job, as they had a direct support professional join them who helped to hold the animal bed on Tony's lap so that Tony could caress the animals while they were waking up. Tony found this job incredibly rewarding and felt valued by those around him, often giving words of thanks from the veterinary staff and the families of the patients. Sometimes we can forget the importance of being valued. It is great to think about how you can support the people to experience being valued and to be a contributing member of society. So let's explore another person centered concept. This is the idea of the good day, bad day, or better day and worse day. When providing direct supports, it is important to recognize that so much of what can be important to and for us can influence how our days go. Same goes for any of the people we're supporting. One way to support employment planning and goals is to understand not only how to support someone generally, but what can we do to make it a better day? And then what can we avoid when they're not having the best day and to not make it worse? This simple exercise relies on having trust and the ability to have those branching conversations with the people you're supporting. You're going to be collecting information on what makes their days better and what makes it worse. If there are multiple staff involved supporting the individual, it's helpful if everyone has the opportunity to share their observations and their insights. We might notice things that bring a smile to someone's face versus something that made someone appear sad. Good days and bad days are made up of moments of time. So it's helpful and informative when we can map out what are the things that contribute to a person having a better day and maybe what time of day was that. Times a good day or a bad day can relate to something that is important to them that is missing. Maybe it's a small breakfast instead of eating a full heavy breakfast, stopping by a local coffee shop for their favorite cold brew. This can be particularly helpful if you are supporting anyone already working or who is going to be working soon to ensure that they have more better days at work. Often, what happens at home can impact how their day at work goes, and vice versa. Similarly, a contributing factor to having more good days at home and at the workplace relate to the idea of matching. Matching is the idea of working and being around people who you feel complement your personality and have shared interests and beliefs and values as you. When we have good matches, people have better days. This includes when we have a good job match and a good match within our relationships and our teammates, etc. Have you ever had a day that just flew by when you were working with someone? This likely meant that you were a good match with that person, and perhaps it's because you share a love for music, and that helps your day go well. Similarly, if you've ever had a day where it just felt like time stood still, well, it likely meant you were paired with somebody that's not a good match for you, and maybe they have personality characteristics that don't match yours. Through conversations and observation, you can get the opportunity to start to map out what a good match may look like for the people you're supporting. And as the individuals you're supporting get to interact with more people, they might get new experiences, and that helps them learn about themselves. Like maybe working outdoors is not a good match, working in teams is not a good match. All of this is helpful in supporting the employment journey of the people that you support. The more time that we have to spend with the people we support, the more opportunities we have to support their vision for employment. Several of the techniques and tools shared help to get conversations started that will help you as a direct support professional make connections to support employment goals. Through your conversations, you will begin to learn about the whole life of the person you are supporting in all contexts and environments that they live in. Through this engagement, we learn about their needed and preferred supports, their resources, who they're connected to, or areas of need, and what social connections they do have. Each person has a unique web of relationships or connections in their life. These connections can be with supports, they can be from people, and can also include access to resources that come from different systems. When we start talking about employment, it's beneficial to know about the person's connections to know where to start. Some supports and resources are already established and integrated into the person's life, while others are yet to be identified. You can begin making connections again through asking questions and having follow-up questions to learn more. And these questions may extend beyond the person to other support staff or supervisors who may know more about the supports and resources available or that already exist in the person's life. Some example questions that you may want to ask include what goals the person has, who and what are their current supports and resources in their life, as well as exploring how their connections support the person's health, safety, community participation, satisfaction, and of course, their happiness. You can think of this as a great time of exploration and discovery. The time you spend understanding supports and resources a person has, the more informed your vision and trajectory planning for employment will be. So, here are some possible examples of supports and resources that a person that you work with may have. This is not an exhaustive list, but some common supports and resources for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities that we've seen over time. There are a few that are starred that indicate these are directly related to vocational support access, and I'll read them all together at the end. If any of these terms seem unfamiliar to you, feel free to explore the glossary tool provided within this training. So some supports include parents and caregivers, siblings, spouses and partners, friends, teachers, mentors, coaches, peers, coworkers, some case managers, healthcare workers, therapists or counselors, employment specialists, and direct support professionals. Now, I'm looking at the resources. The common ones that already relate to vocational supports include Medicaid, service organizations, day programs, education, the pre-employment transition services, transportation, employment, benefits planning, vocational rehabilitation, and technology. In addition, there's a few others, so other public benefits, healthcare systems, housing, and recreation. As you think through these lists, think about how some of these supports interact with resources and systems. For instance, a teacher may provide classroom or individual instruction to a person that they work with that's within the education system. And so, because the person has access to the education system, which is considered a resource, they also have access to the teacher, who is the support. The more active we are in our community, the more we make connections to others. We become a part of the community as we are connected by proximity, values, and opportunities. Think about your social capital. Have your connections ever helped you in your life to help you meet your goals? And think about the people you support. How can you help them to gain social capital too? It's really important that we make connections. For example, my first job was made through my parents. And when I typically ask this question in other trainings and I say, where did your first job come from? It's typically because they came from somebody that you knew, somebody that your family knew, or somebody your friends knew. Social capital is incredibly important. Social capital is an effort to establish and build a network of relationships among people. Relationship building is a way we all build social capital to enhance our lives. And of course, the same process can be applied to when we're helping to support others who are looking for work. It can be built over time and through routine and meaningful participation in the community. Social capital is accomplished when we get connected. So, how can you help people build their social capital? Next, we are going to reflect on how our own social capital has helped us to gain better opportunities and fuller inclusion in our communities. So, with these questions, what social connections have led you to work opportunities? Think about that for a second. It's through those connections that have helped you be where you are. It could be going to a local grocery store, banking. You build connections when you get out into the community. What routines do you have that help you to create social capital? And what about the people we serve? What opportunities do we have to enhance our social capital? And likewise, what opportunities can we create to support the people that we serve to build their social capital? This is Brian's success story, and it's shared through ThinkWork. It's the Institute for Community Inclusion at UMass Boston. Brian worked in the sheltered or group employment for a number of years. Brian and his support team, including his mother, had a person-centered planning meeting focused on Brian and other employment options that he may be interested in outside of that group setting focusing on competitive and integrated employment. Through conversations and Brian leading his meeting by discussing what he does in his day to day life, his skills and interests, the team learned that Brian collects cans and bottles and takes them to a local liquor store to be redeemed for money. With this information, a member of Brian's team contacted the liquor store to explore potential employment opportunities, and they learned that the owner and Brian have gotten to know each other very well over these years. And this led to Brian working at the liquor store, and he gets to do maintenance and other tasks, and he also receives support to avoid getting distracted while he's at work. So let's explore an eco map. An eco map can help us identify those connections and really understand relationships. An eco map is a tool to help support professionals understand a person's relationships and the supports and resources that they have. It can identify the strength of the person's connections to those supports and resources, and also those that aren't present and that are most important to and for them in their life. For example, a young adult wants to pursue career training to become a mechanic, but they do not have a connection to training or vocational resources. And this eco map could highlight that this might be a weak connection and where we can help strengthen them. So, how can we do this? Eco maps can be fun and a creative activity to do with a person that you're supporting. Think of this activity in the context of the goals stated by the person. We're going to be looking at this eco map from their lens and what do they want in their life. So, the step one, partner with a person that's interested in employment. Step two, draw a circle in the middle of a piece of paper, or you could do it electronically on a computer. And in that circle represents the person. So, you're going to draw their name in step three, draw and label other circles out from that center that represent all of the other supports and resources that are connected to that person. Include the supports and connections that could be made to benefit the person. And then step four, use the key to identify the strength of a person's relationship to each connection. So the key you'll have to develop. So for example, if one of the supports or resources, there's a really strong connection, maybe it's really bold or a big line, a big arrow between the person and that support. And maybe if it's a weak connection, maybe it's a really thin line, or maybe it's super weak and we're just suggesting this. It's not even in the plan right now. Maybe it's a dotted line. So you're going to want to come up with a key and a legend to help you understand the strengths of these relationships. But have fun with this. An eco map is intended to be creative, and you do it with the individual. You're probably going to have to connect with other support team members in order to really fill out and build a really robust eco map. So have fun, be mindful of the activity, take your time, go slow, but most importantly, have fun to identify who's present and who is not in present. When you really get to figure out who is not present in their life and those supports and resources, that's where you can step in and help to build those connections. Go out into the community and make those connections together. So, as we're exploring high expectations, of course, for employment, here are some thoughtful questions I encourage you to answer in your head. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your current expectations for the people that you support to pursue employment? And where would you like to be on this scale? Our goal, of course, is that you get to a 10. Employment First is all about the belief and value that all people can work regardless of the level of their support needs. How can you be person centered in supporting the whole person, including employment within your role? And what tools will you use? We've shared a few. Hopefully, you found a tool that makes sense and that you would maybe like to explore more or just use. Last question. How do you see yourself starting employment conversations in your everyday work? So, this could be in home, out in the community, maybe during program time. But how could you do that? I'm going to review a quick case study on the next slide. And then after the case study, you're going to get a chance to think through your reactions or your initial thoughts on this case study. Let me introduce you to Megan. Megan attended high school in Michigan and she graduated with her high school diploma. Megan was involved with athletic programs and theater in high school. After graduating high school, Megan worked as an usher at a local movie theater, greeting customers, taking tickets, and directing people to the correct theater for their movie. Megan attended college at the University of Eastern Michigan and obtained a bachelor's degree in social work and focused her studies in Spanish. After graduation, Megan obtained a job working as an independent living resource coordinator for a local agency. Megan enjoys traveling and spending time with her family. So hopefully you have an image in your head of Megan as we told you this story. Now, what I did not tell you about Megan is Megan has cerebral palsy and she uses a wheelchair for mobility. Megan receives support from a certified nursing assistant associated with a variety of tasks, such as bathing and toileting. She receives support from a service dog. Megan goes to a gym and works out with a trainer to build her strength. Megan has been working for 4 years in her role and uses a variety of assistive technological devices to communicate and using technology to engage on social media. Now, I want you just to take time to reflect on the story and how your thoughts may have changed after you learned more about Megan and her daily life experiences than the initial story. Did you think that Megan was a person with a disability in the very beginning? It's important for us to be aware of our perception and to also be able to grow and recognize that this is a success story to show that a person with a significant disability and cerebral palsy went and attended a 4 year university and she had the right supports and she's working in a competitive job and she's using lots of supports, technology, her service animal, her support team. And because of all of these great supports and resources that she's had access to, she's been working successfully for 4 years now. So, here are some quick takeaways from this section. You can support people in developing a vision and trajectory for their life. Determining what is important to and important for each person is part of person centered thinking. And you can help people have good days and refocus when they're having a bad day. And so much to be said about the connections and relationships that we have. So, building those are essential to help a person's employment journey. But most importantly, the most meaningful piece and takeaway from this whole training is that you are an important part of each person's employment journey.